Hello, I'm Diane Large, and I'm here to interview one of San Miguel's unique and very well-known characters, Lou Christine. Lou, hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm flattered.
It's our pleasure. Lou, can you tell us what you did, where you came from and what you did, and how you got to San Miguel?
In 1995, I was living in the Hawaiian Islands on the island of Maui, and I had been living there for 16 years. And I had, in 1987, I gave up all my business interests and real estate interests to become a full-time writer. I was, not that I'm a one-trick pony, but I'm like most men, I can't multitask. So, you know, us men, we can either, you know, fight or make love or work, but women do the multitasking. So I needed to be unencumbered so I could parlay my art into writing. So by 1995, I entered a Disney Fellowship program to work with Walt Disney Studios. And I earned the program, and I was supposed to go to Burbank in October of 1995. And ironically, I had written a Disney-esque screenplay, and I wanted to show my diversity, so I went to Atlantic City, New Jersey, and I wrote a boxing movie that I would take with me to Hollywood, so to speak. I got shocked while visiting people in Taos, New Mexico on my way to California that Disney had canceled the program. And it was really a kick in the gut to me because a lot of people questioned, since I, at that time, didn't have a degree, why I would embark on writing screenplays and novels and plays and things of that nature. But it was something that I just had to do. I was devastated, as I said, when I did not get when they canceled the program. Ironically, the people that I was staying with in Taos, New Mexico, suggested this town. There's this town you should go to, Lou. You know, just go there and learn how to drink tequila and dance salsa, and it's a great town. And I really needed direction. So I took their advice and I took a ride. It took me about 2.5 days to get here, and basically the rest is history. It's almost 30 years ago now. I kid with the taxi cab drivers. They asked me why I'm here and where did I come from, whatnot, and I told them I came for coffee and donuts and never left, Cafe Donuts, and they get a kick out of that. And thus I began my life in San Miguel de Allende.
How I got to know you is through a business that I guess you started, or a business, which really gave a lot of people, you know, a lot of information about the city and got to know you well.
Well, yes. As I said, I got here in 1995, and I basically woke up with $70 to my name in the year 2000. No mommy, no daddy, no checking account, credit cards maxed out. Because I had refused to go in business or get a job or do anything, I was so totally dedicated to trying to earn a living as a writer. And that never really occurred big time. So I had this idea of the VIP club, very informed people club, VIP, that I had for a while, and that was to enable restaurants to capture the local market and enable locals to shop in town, and and to maybe get a discount. And as I would tell the merchants, restaurateurs, or shop owners, why give a break to someone you're going to see once in a lifetime when you have an opportunity to make a full-time customer that can be your customer for 20 years?
Let me backtrack a little. Can you tell us what your first impression of San Miguel was and how you got to meet people? Shy, I know you're not.
Well, first of all, I never had good dreams. And I had laughing dreams in San Miguel. And I really noticed it. Ironically, there was a restaurant here called Casa Mexas. I'm a big football fan, American football fan, have been all my life, coming from a big league town, Philadelphia. And there was a restaurant here called Casa Mex's, and every Sunday, half the town was rooting for the Dallas Cowboys, and the other half the town was rooting for the New York Giants, the San Francisco 49ers, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Green Bay Packers. So we would have a great rivalry, and the name of the restaurant was Casa Mex's. And we would have just a good time there. And all of us, a lot of the San Miguel characters of the time, Blind George, New York Steve, Jay Kimball, they were all fans from other cities in Dallas, so it was always us against the Dallas fans. So I had a lot of fun, and there was a lot of parties, and I learned real quick, in those days you didn't need to be invited to a party. If there was a party, you were invited. If you just showed up. And so there was a lot of partying, and I did learn how to drink tequila, and I did learn how to salsa dance, and I did meet a few ladies, and I compared my life in Hawaii financially with my life here, and I was having a good time, and I decided that this was the place for me. In actuality, when I first came, I met Sarita Molitz, who was the editor of Attention, and I told her I wrote, and she wanted to see some examples of my writing, and she was a great instrument and influence of me to write as a newspaper person. She really could. She was the best editor I ever had. She liked what my ideas was. I used to do a column, sort of the man on the street, and you know, for instance, I worked with the crews in the streets, putting the cobblestones in for a day. And another time I worked on a trash truck for a day. I used to ride all the bus lines with an interpreter. I spent a day with the mayor. I spent 24 hours in the Jardine one time, and chronicling how the atmosphere of the Jardine changed from, you know, in the morning type people versus the afternoon people versus the evening people versus the drunks at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so I was given carte blanche by the editors of Attention to write whatever I wanted to write, and I was allocated 1,800 words a week, and probably 3 out of 4 weeks a month I had an op column in there, and I really enjoyed that. Of course, years later they cut down on editorials and pretty much wanted just pretty much short pieces, and it didn't no longer work for me. But I got great joy out of expressing myself, and developed a fan base, and people got to know me through my writing and through me and through small town, what have you. And then the VIP club enabled me to launch my business, and it was successful. And as I told you earlier, I had recently sold the business.
Will you tell us what you like about living in San Miguel, or why you stayed here? Or you find unique having lived in the States and Hawaii and then here?
Well, I like living in what they call special places, okay? I come from Philadelphia. It's a cradle of liberty of the United States, and San Miguel, to a degree, is a cradle of liberty to Mexico. You can't beat the climate, even though I did live in Hawaii, which was paradise. The climate here is a little less tropical, but the climate is wonderful. The essence and culture of this town and of this country are beautiful. The architecture, the color, the spirit. There was a great sense of community when I came to San Miguel. Maybe a little more so since the expat population was a lot more united and smaller, and we're interested in doing a lot of volunteer work. Though that atmosphere is somewhat changed today, but at the same time, I recognized all that. There was helping hands. When I lived in Hawaii, people were so crippled by the economy there. The idea, everything was so expensive. Here, people had a little bit more change in their pockets. They would give to charities. They would give to events that supported charities. And there was a feeling of community that I did not have in Hawaii. There was a sense of aloha in Hawaii, but not like there was here. So these are sort of the factors, and beautiful women, and you couldn't deny it, the expenses. What I was paying for a postage stamp condo in Hawaii, which was in the early 90s, was $1,000 a month. And here I was offered an apartment with breakfast and daily maid service for $200 a month. And since I wasn't really making any money from my writings, which I thought at one time I would, there was no income. I had no income from 1987 to the year 2000. So it was time to start making the money because I still had rent to pay.
Maybe you can pick a couple that you can tell us that if, things that have happened to you or people that you've met in San Miguel that have helped make this a unique experience.
Well, when Jaime Hernandez was mayor and he returned to Instituto Allende, he wasn't necessarily happy with a lot of the things that were going on there, and he wanted more exposure. And since I had written an article spending a whole 24 hours with Jaime Hernandez at one time, he liked the article, obviously. I blew some smoke his way. And he invited me down, and he wanted me to enhance the activities that took place at Instituto Allende that weren't necessarily academic. And he gave me carte blanche to do whatever I want. Not much of a budget, but to do whatever I want. So we embarked, and we had access to the Atención, of course. I was then writing for the Atención. We embarked on field trips. We embarked on a weekly concert. We embarked on a weekly lecture. And I guess the greatest contribution is I'm actually the founder of the Instituto Allende's Arts and Crafts Fair that I started, I think, in 1998. And I recruited Chris Rudolph because she had already done some arts and crafts things around town, events. And I knew she knew what was arts and what was craft, rather it was something that was mass produced. So we began the Arts and Crafts Fair at Instituto Allende in 1998, and it's 2024 and it's still going and still goes strong. We don't do as often as many a year because of the weddings that take place there. So I consider that an accomplishment, and I got to meet a lot of great people, a lot of the great craftsmen and artists in San Miguel, musicians, and also Jaime gave me, I could freewheeling to create a easygoing atmosphere, which, pets and children were welcome. We don't have any archaic rules, and the best part of it is that all of our artists and craftspeople made money. And that's what we were about, making them money.
That's terrific. I never knew that.
Yeah.
Any other stories you'd like to share with us? I know you've got loads of them.
Well, yeah, I guess most of them have to do with the iconic people that I've had an opportunity to know and live with here, and the idea of, for instance, in the year 2005, I wrote and I produced a stage play, which Elena Shoemaker directed. And she did a terrific job, and we were a success. And I think it was the first time that ever a full-page color ad came out for a play in Atención. And we did a lot of those things that were first time. But then there was a bar here called Petite Bar. And Daniel Serday was the owner of it, and he and a fellow named John McCulley and Carlos Pascual wanted to start a magazine called the Petite Journal. And the Petite Journal was going to take a writer, a photographer, a painter once a month and do a spread on them. And part of the spread would be that they had to be photographed in the buff. And I happened to be the first person to agree to do it. I became the Marilyn Monroe of the Petite Journal. The only caveat was that I had to wear a hat. And I could do any pose that I wanted, but I had to wear a hat. So I came up, naturally, I got in shape at 58, and I used a baseball pose with my left leg out and the batter's back, because I wasn't going to show my junk, because maybe I'll run for senator one day. and it was a great success. And they made a video and everything. They followed me around for a week. They made a video, and I was the beginning of the Petite Journal. I think ran for 3 years, and it'd be a woman, a man, a man, a woman, you know, alternately. And the Petite Journal was a fine magazine, and it's a shame that it didn't continue after 3 years.
Oh, that's a great story. I never knew. Was that when he had the place on Hernandez Marcia?
Yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, that photo is. I have a big version of it, and the photo is available for people to see on Facebook, on my page. On the bat, I wrote "Philly Kid," and it got a great look. As a matter of fact, ironically, the headline, the line on the magazine said "Lou Christine and Pelotas," and after that came out, I'd be walking around town, and guys would be in the back of pickup trucks, Mexican kids. I didn't know them. They'd stand up and they'd scream out my name, Lou Christine and Pelotas, and they put through the batting stance. And I'd walk into restaurants. It was sort of embarrassing to have my name shouted out, especially Lou Christine and Pelotas was being hollered at wherever I went. So it made me well known. Actually, I got a couple dates out of it, I think. So it was a notoriety, and as time went by, people still to this day say that they thought my photograph was one of the best ever in it. And so, thanks to Carlos Pascual, who now resides in Ljubljana in Slovenia, and he's become the Latin American writer there, and he's a great guy and very talented. And Daniel Serde, he's reduced his work style. He runs the theater at the Baco restaurant. And I'm afraid, John McCulley, I can't find him. He did go back to New Zealand, and he was a great man of insight and talent, and he did a terrific job on the video for me. So those are other things that, you know, separated me from maybe the hoi polloi.
But these are great stories. They're great stories. Well, we have a little more time if you want to tell anything else. And
well, I'm trying to reflect back some other defining moments that took place. I have to go back to the play because and talk about writing. I usually know from the get-go, is this going to be a novel? Is this going to be a stage play? Is this going to be a script, a movie script? And the way that the loose ends came out, it looked like it was better as a stage play. And I needed 11 women. And when they told me when I first came here, if you're going to have a play and you want a 40-year-old, well, you'll get a 60-year-old who'll play the 40-year-old, 80-year-old will play the 60-year-old. So where was I going to get young talent? But Allison Long, who was Reverend Long's daughter at the time, I started going to plays and started looking at who was acting and whatnot, basically on a talent hunt. And she was fabulous in everything I saw her in. And so if I recruited her, and if I didn't have Allison Long, there'd be no play. She did a tremendous job. And I also did find 11 nice-looking young ladies that all played their parts, and there were only a couple other professional or people that actually had stage work experience. But with the help of Elena Shoemaker in prompting them, they did a terrific job. We had a lot of fun. And I made money, which is always the bottom line. I've made money in everything I've done in my life except being a writer. Why, I don't know. Maybe it's my curse, but that's okay, because doing is everything. The rest is subjective. So if you have a dream, you put it out there. You may not get that Academy Award or the Grammy, but doing it is everything in my view. And I've had writers hand me their scripts to read, and frankly, they were awful, but some of them. And I still admire them. Anyone, no matter how insignificant it is, I admire people that try to do things. And I give them all credit. So I'm a strong believer, do it. And all ideas are good as long as they're carried forward.
Luke, can you tell us about some of the changes you've seen since you arrived here in San Miguel?
Well, the most obvious one, obviously, is the traffic. And there was a time that I could park right up on the Jardín or in front of the Parroquia at any time of day, and it made no difference. So naturally, with the overcrowding, with the traffic jam, with the gridlock, I believe that the city has taken away at least 300 parking spots that were once there. They're no longer available. But at the same time, that's a little bit of a negative. Price gouging is a negative. The departure of many of our families of San Miguel that maybe lived on Soriano or Raylo or any of those houses in Centro, they just could not ignore the carpetbaggers. They could not ignore the idea of $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 for their homes, amounts of money that they would never have been able to get 10, 15 years before. At the same time, the investors that have come in on those properties, rather if they don't want to live there, they want a return on their investment. And actually, they've taken advantage of the inflation. So naturally, the price of living in San Miguel has gone up a tremendous amount, not what your average might be. So I always say that the 15 peso tequila in 1995 is 150 pesos a day for a shot of tequila, so to speak. The price increases are apparent. Now I can say that our utilities work better today. There were times that us old timers know that the electric could get shut down on Monday and you wouldn't have any electricity till Friday, and you wouldn't hear from the electric company, you didn't hear from anybody, you just knew you didn't have electricity. The water company, the street department, they would dig up your street, and if your car was in a garage, it may not move for a month. The telephones worked. We have a lot of choices when it comes to entertainment. We have all kinds of cables and streaming and things of that nature. So, and I was a little bit of a determined, because when I came here, you were kind of forced to watch Mexican television, and you learned things about Mexico. Maybe you didn't understand the language. People that come today don't have to have any association with anything in Mexico. They live in Mexico, they enjoy the amenities of Mexico, but they don't need to know history, they don't need to know anything, and they can enjoy our town. And it's not that it should be essential for them to know, but when I moved to Hawaii, I wanted to know about the Hawaiian Islands and how they came about. And growing up in Philadelphia, I wanted to know the history of my city. And the same thing that I want to know things about Mexico that I've learned from the golden era of cinema to Porfirio Diaz to Benito Juarez. So it's a pretty good idea, I believe, where you live, to learn a little bit about the culture there, to learn some of the do's and not do's things, to enable to integrate yourself with the society and to become a positive factor in a society rather than a negative factor. And we all would like to change the world, but all we can really do is enhance the time we're with, a time and who we deal with. And as far as Mexico, it's not that I was a barbarian, but Mexico's taught me a lot about gentlemanship. You know, the great mi casa, su casa, buen provecho, con permiso, all these little nuances of life that our Mexican hosts appreciate that we might do in their presence, and seeing that we are Mexicanos in our hearts.
That was beautifully put. Thank you.
Thank you.
These are great, Lou. I thank you so much. We've met through the years but never really talked, and you've had great experiences. I do know, though, that you've contributed a lot to the life in San Miguel and to charities. And I thank you so much for coming here. It's a delight to speak with you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation and be able to share some of my past. And I did get married in 2018, and to Donna. Donna's going through a little bit of a problem right now, but I want to make reference to her. She's made me a better person also.
That's so nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was in maybe 4th grade, and I went to this one parochial school. And that Monday was in October in the United States. Well, Philadelphia was Fire Prevention Month. So they would come around all the schools, firing, giving talks and whatnot. And Gene Crane was a local celebrity.
Weatherman.
He was a weatherman, but he was also the pinch on weekends. He sometimes be anchors, and he became the spokesman of Acme Markets. Was like becoming the spokesman of La Camera or something. So on Monday, Gene Crane and the fire department and all this stuff comes to the school I'm at, and they were going to. There was a candy called Good and Plenty, which was a licorice candy.
Good and plenty. It's plenty good.
But they were going to give to the winner who knew the answer to this question would get a case of Good and Plenty, which a gross with 144 boxes of candy. And I didn't know the answer was, where is Firebox 1776? Now 1776 is the year that the United States broke away from England, and the box is right outside Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence was signed. I didn't know, but some other brain in that class knew. So the next day I moved to a whole different neighborhood. And now I'm in St. Benedict's. And don't you know it's Friday? And don't you know we all go to the auditorium, and who shows up but Gene Crane and the fire department and all this. So I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready for the question. And 1776 winner. So I won 144 boxes of Good and Plenty. Well, naturally, there was Good and Plenty all over the school. The nuns and everybody at Good and Plenty. We were throwing them at each other. And so when I met Gene Crane here, I had to tell him the story. He had no memory of such, He had been to so many places. So all these guys went to CBS to try to get jobs because they were going to needed a weatherman, a news guy, and they needed all these guys, reporters. And all these guys that wanted a job with WCBS that didn't make it were told that, Philadelphia was going to start up WCBS. See? So John Facenda and Herb Score, or Herb whatever his name was, and Gene Crane, and all these guys who became household names later in the Philadelphia market, they all got rejected up in New York, and they all came to Philadelphia, and that's how they all got their jobs, because they were already prepared and they were in a network and people were talking about it, and they got to know some of the executives, and so they all became a whole cadre of people that started out, was early television, and I was there for it. I was just a little kid, but I was there for it and got to know. John Facenda was the first narrator for NFL films, and that's why you might hear this guy, the house of the voice of God, John Facenda, and he had a distinct, beautiful, beautiful voice.
Vermeil restored hope and confidence to a team that had lacked both for years, and the Eagles went on to win 8 of their next 12 games.